All right, we're gonna continue with literally one of my favorite chapters that I've listened to, and when it comes down to paying attention to detail. And the reason why this is one of my favorite chapters is one is my biggest weakness, paying attention to detail, but it's also one of the things that they taught me when I was a preacher, and they told me whenever you are presenting yourself to a new group of people, make sure that what you wear, make sure that what you have in your hands, make sure that the words that you use have a slight bit of detail to tell people who you are. So that when they see you, they don't say, who the fuck is this guy? I'm not going to listen to this loser. No, you want them to see you and say, okay, this person knows what the hell they're talking about. And the way you convey who you are is through the details, little things. Like the best thing about a painting is the detail. When you look, the difference between a building now and a building 200 years ago is in the detail. It's the same building, but the ornaments, the little things that are necessary, the little designs that you don't even see in the public light are the details. And that's what makes things impactful. And that's what makes art look beautiful. That's what makes people look attractive. That's what makes charismatic people charismatic. It's in the detail. That's what makes presidential candidates the best presidential candidates they could be. It's in the detail. Anybody that loses the detail will be unattractive, anti-seductive, will push people away, and will not get the results that you want. If you're a guy, women look at details. And us as guys, we do not pay attention to these details. And these are the things, this is why feminine guys are so attractive to women, especially the guys who look a little feminine. It's because a feminine guy is literally a dude who focuses on detail. It's as simple as that. Like, and to me, for example, I could apply this for my channel, the background in my apartment, right? I just don't do it because it's my biggest weakness, if I'm being honest with you. So let's continue watching this. If you guys want to watch the whole series, you guys can become Patreon supporter, and for just one gentrified, inflated cup of coffee, inflation, you guys can get access to all of the Robert Green book club videos and the upcoming ones. I post about 2 or 3 per month. Okay, so let's continue with it. This is why you know what neighborhood somebody is from, through the little things that they say in their words. This is how you know that somebody is a psychopath, or somebody is a really like a boss, somebody who has a lot of powers. You could tell who they are by the subtlety in their face, like their nonverbal cues, which is really the details, communicate to you that they're somebody of importance, right? It's the details that communicates weakness in your face, but it's really in the details. The symmetry between a man and a woman, the proportions, is really in the details. You can't really just point it out. It's hard to really point out why a man looks like a man and a woman looks like a woman. But if you're an artist, you study those details and you know what those are. But really, the beauty is in the details. So now we're going to be listening to one of my favorite stories in the book, The Art of Seduction. And this one entails the power of details and why details literally create an aura around you. So in this story, it'll talk about how a guy and it's kind of creepy, to be honest with you. It'll talk about how a guy uses detail to create a certain message, to create a certain aura. And he uses the visual detail, the auditory detail, scent detail, keynote touching detail, right? And all of those little things add up to an aura that actually makes you more attractive to the opposite sex. It truly is one of my favorite stories, and it kind of illustrates it. It's 3 minutes long, but I believe this is how you create an aura. This is how presidential candidates become presidential candidates. This is how presidents become presidents. This is how people win elections, right? This is how people have an image. This is how superstars, why they're superstars is because of this type of detail. And this is why people fall in love with you. Let's continue.
One day, a messenger told Prince Genji, the aging but still consummate seducer in the Heian court of late 10th century Japan, that one of his youthful conquests had suddenly died, leaving behind an orphan, a young woman named Tamakazura.
Oh no, this better not be going where I think this is going.
Genji was not Tamakazura's father, but he decided to bring her to court and be her protector anyway.
Okay.
Soon after her arrival, men of the highest rank began to woo her. Genji had told everyone she was a lost daughter of his. As a result, they assumed that she was beautiful, for Genji was the handsomest man in the court. At the time, men rarely saw a young girl's face before marriage. In theory, they were allowed to talk to her only if she was on the other side of a screen. Genji showered her with a
God damn. So marriage was a you were rolling the dice back then. I don't know about that, man. I'm dying a virgin.
attention, helping her sort through all the love letters she was receiving and advising her on the right match. As Tamakazura's protector, Genji was able to see her face, and she was indeed beautiful. He fell in love with her. What a shame, he thought, to give this lovely creature away to another man. One night, overwhelmed by her charms, he held her hand and told her how much she resembled her mother, whom he once had loved. She trembled, not with excitement, however, but with fear, for although he wasn't her father, he was supposed to be her protector, not a suitor. Her attendants were away, and it was a beautiful night. Genji silently threw off his perfumed robe and pulled her down beside him. She began to cry and to resist. Always a gentleman, Genji told her that he would respect her wishes. He would always care for her, and she had nothing to fear. He then politely excused himself. Several days later, Genji was helping Tamakazura with her correspondence when he read a love letter from his younger brother, Prince Hotaru, who numbered among her suitors. In the letter, Hotaru berated Tamakazura for not letting him get physically close enough to talk to her and tell her his feelings. Tamakazura had not replied. Unused to the manners of the court, she had felt shy and intimidated. As if to help her, Genji got one of his servants to write to Hotaru in her name. The letter, written on beautiful perfumed paper, warmly invited the prince to visit her. Hotaru appeared at the appointed hour. He smelled a beguiling incense, mysterious and seductive. Mixed into this scent was Genji's own perfume. The prince felt a wave of excitement. Approaching the screen behind which Tamakazura sat, he confessed his love for her. Without making a sound, she retreated to another screen, farther away. Suddenly, there was a flash of light as if a torch had flared up, and Hotaru saw her profile behind the screen. She was more beautiful than he had imagined. Two things delighted the prince: the sudden, mysterious flash of light, and the brief glimpse of his beloved. Now, he was truly in love. Hotaru began to court her assiduously. Meanwhile, feeling reassured that Genji was no longer chasing her, Tamakazura saw her protector more often. And now, she couldn't help noticing little details. Genji's robes seemed to glow in pleasing and vibrant colors, as
You know what's funny is that when you fall in love, you really do pay attention to details about the person, right? When you actually love someone, it's the details that enamors you. The way they cough, the way they look, the way they breathe. But then when you fall out in love, is the details that makes you choke the shit out of them. Not like domestically, you know. Oh my fucking God, he's a fucking beater. Shut up, Melissa. Okay, I'm not. Relax. Jesus Christ, tomorrow's Women's Day, and that's exactly why. Okay, calm down, easy there, for Melissa Callow.
Dyed by unworldly hands. Hotaru's robes seemed drab by comparison, and the perfumes burned into Genji's garments. How intoxicating they were. No one else bore such a scent.
Oh my God, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Are you telling me that the details in the way that you dress, in the scent, because first of all, I don't wear cologne, in the scent that you have, the way that you do things, it is irrelevant. But as soon as somebody falls in love with you, it is those irrelevant details that they notice all of a sudden is what keeps you, is what captivates you. It's not the general gist of you. It's rather when you zoom in the eyes of somebody that loves you. When somebody loves you, they zoom in. There's like a zooming in you, and they pay attention to detail. And so if you have the right detail, if you take your time to make sure that you send out those proper details based on what you want to give out. An air of happiness, an air of religiousness, an air of spirituality, an air of seriousness, whatever. Those details are what people fall in love with. Jesus Christ. I'm actually kind of...
Hotaru's letters were polite and well written, but the letters Genji sent her were on magnificent paper, perfumed and dyed, and they quoted lines of poetry, always surprising yet always appropriate for the occasion. Genji also grew...
Us as guys see this and we say to ourselves, this doesn't work. This doesn't work. Because some guys have had a history of women where they try to be romantic and it doesn't work. But the truth is that this works when they like you. The details of things, the perfume, the cologne, the way you move, the way you dress, who you quote, all of those things have an air of romanticism once the person starts to fall in love with you.
And gathered flowers, wild carnations, for instance, that he gave as gifts and that seemed to symbolize his unique charm. One evening, Genji proposed to teach Tamakazura how to play the koto. She was delighted. She loved to read romance novels, and whenever Genji played the koto, she felt as if she were transported into one of her books.
So the Genji, the guy, saw her. He was supposed to be her. She wasn't his daughter, but he was trying to hit on her at first. She rejected him, and he relented, and he accepted it. But then over time, she started to fall in love with him and started to see the little things in him that was just so fascinating. And this is where we are right now.
No one played the instrument better than Genji. She would be honored to learn from him. Now, he saw her often, and the method of his lessons was simple. She would choose a song for him to play, and then would try to imitate him. After they played, they would lie down side by side, their heads resting on the koto, staring up at the moon. Genji would have torches set up in the garden, giving the view the softest glow.
So, the details, once again. Unnecessary details that, to me as a guy, I find irrelevant. But to the mind that's in love, it is fuel for burning fire. It's something. And again, I told you the story of this pickup artist called Mystery. How when before he would go to the clubs, he would set his apartment up with music that started from normal and upbeat to relaxed, right? Like a 1 hour from like a 1 hour playlist, and he specifically got it towards the end so that it was more romantic. And the lights in his apartment were slowly dimmed to a warm red. And right towards when he will make the move, he will tell the girl to help him light up candles. And I told you in the previous video how the girls would say like they found that so romantic. And they found that so seductive, the little details. And it just said, I don't know what just happened, but we just ended up doing it. And it's the little details like that I bet you don't think about. I don't think about. It's really, but you know what? I do think about it when it comes to when I was a Christian and when I was a preacher. I really paid attention to tell people through the way that I dressed who I was, and it definitely had an impact in how I preached. It had an impact in how I told people about God and how I got them to convert to Christianity.
The more Tamakazura saw of the court, of Prince Hotaru, the other suitors, the emperor himself, the more she realized that none could compare to Genji. He was supposed to be her protector. Yes, that was still true, but was it such a sin to fall in love with him? Confused, she found herself giving in to the caresses and kisses that he began to surprise her with, now that she was too weak to resist. Interpretation. Genji is the protagonist in the 11th century novel, The Tale of Genji, written by Murasaki Shikibu, a woman of the Heian court. The character was most likely inspired by the real-life seducer Fujiwara no Korechika. In his seduction of Tamakazura, Genji's strategy was simple. He would make her realize indirectly how charming and irresistible he was by surrounding her with unspoken details. He also brought her in contact with his brother. Comparison with this drab, stiff figure would make Genji's superiority clear.
Oh my God. You know, Mystery, that guy, when he would have a date with a girl, he would have her interact with a guy that was clearly like a loser, really literally loserish. I hate to call people loser, but you know what I'm talking about. Like completely unattractive. And then he would barge in and say, "Hey, it's me." Right? And the contrast was pretty huge. And I think that works simply because of this. Studies show that if you want to show people what they are from 1 out of 10, have them look at it, show them a picture of a really of a 10 out of 10, and then show them a picture of a 0 out of 10, right? And then and then say, okay, compared to these two people, where do you rank? It gives them a better perspective. But also what he is doing here, he is skewing it for his favor, right? It's almost like the contrast effect, where a color looks more colorful when it's sitting next to its opposite. You look more attractive when you're sitting next to your opposite.
The night Hotaru first visited her, Genji set everything up, as if to support Hotaru's seducing. The mysterious scent, then the flash of light by the screen. The light came from a novel effect. Earlier in the evening, Genji had collected hundreds of fireflies in a cloth bag. At the proper moment, he let them all go at once.
Details. But the key to this type of romanticism is that it cannot look effort. It cannot look like you made an effort. You cannot look like this was intentional. It has to feel natural. Because if it's not natural, then it'll feel manipulative. You get what I'm saying?
But when Tamakazura saw Genji encouraging Hotaru's pursuit of her, her defenses against her protector relaxed, allowing her senses to be filled by this master of seductive effects. Genji orchestrated every possible detail: the scented paper, the colored robes, the lights in the garden, the wild carnations, the apt poetry, the koto lessons, which induced an irresistible feeling of harmony. Tamakazura found herself dragged into a sensual whirlpool. Bypassing the shyness and mistrust that words or actions would only have worsened, Genji surrounded his ward with objects, sights, sounds, and scents that symbolized the pleasure of his company far more than his actual physical presence.
So it's almost like he surrounded himself with an aura of symbols that represented peace, that represented harmony, that represented attractiveness per se, right? So if you don't have the looks, for example, just surround yourself with harmony, with beauty, with nature, and it'll create an aura around you. Jesus Christ, people, this is really mind blowing. I mean, I'm teaching this live, but I'm learning live at the same time. And it just makes so much sense. And you could do this for almost anything. I mean, you could do this for demonic type of shit. If you want to look demonic as hell, surround yourself with demonic shit, you know? And it'll give you an aura of untrustworthiness. So it's almost like the context around you influences how you look. And the same thing with colors, right? You could put colors look different when it's surrounded by other colors. Like me, put me around white people, I look like Wesley Snipes. Okay, I'm black on the Wesley Snipes. Put me around Wesley Snipes, and I'm freaking Casper. You know what I'm saying? Like for example, me, I thought I was dark as hell. Really, I'm not even lying to you people. Like I really thought I was blacker than night my whole life, right? The reason why is because out of all my family, I'm the dark. Me and my other cousin are the darkest ones, right? Because they're lighter skinned. And like they look like freaking like my mom. She resembles Selena, like the singer Selena. That's how she looks, right? And all her sisters have a similar complexion. And yeah, what's funny is that almost all of them dated a dark skinned brother. Almost all of them went for the dark brothers. Oh, my grandma must have been mad. Oh, no, for those who don't know, man, you know how old school parents, right? But anyways, my grandma still loves me. I don't give a fuck. No, because I could just imagine back then, right? I'm like, she's like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, all these Tyrones? All right, let's continue this.
Would have. In fact, his presence could only have been threatening. He knew that a young girl's senses are her most vulnerable point. The key to Genji's masterful orchestration of detail was his attention to the target of his seduction. Like Genji, you must attune your own senses to your targets, watching them carefully, adapting to their moods. You sense when they are defensive and retreat. You also sense when they are giving in and move forward. In between, the details you set up, gifts, entertainments, the clothes you wear, the flowers you choose, are aimed precisely at their tastes and predilections.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be like a general thing, like a one size fits all type of care package from Drake type of shit, right? It has to be detailed to who they are. What anime do they like? What characters do they like? Who do they admire? Who they don't admire? All that type of stuff. It has to be detailed to them. It's like advertising specifically to them.
Genji knew he was dealing with a young girl who loved romantic novels. His wild flowers, koto playing, and poetry brought their world to life.
Oh, so it seems like he was able to just be whatever she wanted in a way. You know? And look, man, it's kind of like, we all got to realize, man, at the end of the day, these relationships won't last long. We're all going to die one day. And at the end of the day, you want to give people an experience. You want to start seeing yourself as a performer of love, you know, not just performing in the bedroom, but performing in real life, giving them a great time, giving them a fantasy, fulfilling them a fantasy, being a fantasy figure for them. Maybe they want the Cinderella effect. Then maybe you rent a horse, you know, and you do it for them as a special occasion and treat them like a princess. You know what I'm saying? Like, this sounds like you're sort of like simping to them, but if it's something that's in their fantasy, man or woman, if it's in their fantasy, this is not sympology, people. This is psychology.
For her. Attend to your target's every move and desire, and reveal your attentiveness in the details and objects you surround them with.
You don't just say, I like you. You show them, not by kissing them, but by details. You show them you like them by the details. You're paying attention. People love, like, whenever I meet someone and they tell me that like says, I know you do this. I know you like this. Like, it's an example, right? I'm like, bitch, you know that shit. She's like, I watch a channel. I'm like, yo, come here, man. Let's take a picture together, man. Oh, damn. Like, you, come here, sister. You know, like, it's like, people remembering little things about you is so flattering. That's why we sort of kind of get offended when people forget our birthdays. You know what I'm saying? There's something deep and wired in our desire to somebody to pay deep attention to us.
Filling their senses with the mood you need to inspire. They can argue with your words, but not with the effect you have on their senses. Keys.
So we're going to stop it here. Because he's going to the keys to human nature. But that was such an interesting story. So interesting, man. Anyways, if you guys enjoy this type of content, just become a Patreon supporter by clicking on the description down below for $5 a month. And I'll see you guys inside. Bye-bye.